Oh, it's over to me, is it? Okay. Hello, I'm Carol Ann Rice, and I'm chairing today's debate. I'm a life coach and a journalist, but don't let that put you off. I'm also author of Start Your Dream Business, which came out last month, and it's 5 stars on Amazon and doing extremely well. This is my second book. The first book was Find Your Dream Job. As a life coach, I actually coach and mentor people all around the world because I use Skype to help my clients. I have clients in Kabul, Australia, Madison Avenue, Switzerland, France, Barcelona, and we, as long as the time scales work, we have coaching sessions via Skype. Equally, I coach and mentor people in London and people who live all over the UK. Being a coach is probably the best career move I ever made because I'm passionate about personal development. I coach people like you, business startups, established CEOs, writers, artists, journalists, a pole dancer, a burlesque dancer, sportsmen, all sorts of people who are passionate about their own personal development. So today I really would like you to speak up, make the most of the session, where you've got a panel of experts here to talk about how iMentorship might help you, how iMentorship is changing the world of coaching and mentoring, and how today you might be able to use some of our knowledge to help build your own businesses. So shall we go over to JP to introduce yourself first, JP?
Thank you very much. Hi, I'm Jeanette Pritchard, commonly known as JP, I think, to most. I founded my own brand strategy agency over 15 years ago now, called JP Creative. Enjoyed that enormously, building my own small startup around my kitchen table to what is now an international agency that works with fabulous brands around the world. I also set up and founded the Ugly Campus, which is where we all are today, out of really an aspiration and a real desire to help startup businesses and give them an opportunity to really thrive. It's now a wonderful campus of over 700 people, 56 companies, and from every walk of sort of media, fashion, digital. It's fantastic. And obviously Imperial sat in the middle of that with BBC R&D at the end of the campus. So it's a fantastic landscape really in which to work, which I love. And lastly, 5 years ago, I founded something called Brand Amplifier, which is really a mentorship to marketplace incentivizing program, I guess, for women in business, and really sort of challenging their ideas about their brand and their business at a very incubation stage. The idea is to give those brands confidence and to mentor by just bringing in very successful people, women who've done had their own journey, and sharing that knowledge with the next generation of SMEs. I believe SMEs will get us out of this recession. I've always been on the soapbox about that, and so I did something about it and set up Brand Amplifier 5 years ago. That's why I'm here today, I guess.
Great, JP. Inspirational, JP. Sylvia.
Hello, everyone. Nice to see some familiar faces here as well. My name is Sylvia Marshall. I run a company, cozyhomesonline.com, and that actually operates as a virtual company. So we have staff based in San Francisco, Scotland, Africa, and so there is a natural need to use media to communicate. That and my previous company grew from developing our own talent, so mentorship has always been very important in there. Latterly, I'm one of the IOD, the Institute of Directors gurus, so I have a lot of working relationships with young people who are setting up in business. And frankly, I do that for fun because my day job, I'm described quite often as a serial entrepreneur, which I rather hate. That sounds a bit like a serial killer. But literally, I grow businesses to be worth $1 million, and then I sell them on, hence sorry to plug a book as well, but hence the book 0 to a Million, which basically says how I do it. So hopefully I'm helping other people do the same, and that's really what I'm about. So use digital and hook up with me on LinkedIn if you want to know more.
Which is a great starting point, because I would like us to have a little chat up here on the panel to begin with, but if anybody does have a question, put your hand up and we will bring the microphone to you. But we'll have a little chat first of all. And what you were just saying about iMentorship, I would like you ladies to actually explain to me, who's an old school business person, the difference between mentorship and iMentorship, and what the significance is to people starting out in business.
Okay, do you want to kick off?
Okay. I think the big thing is, by having iMentorship, it gives you the opportunity to engage with more people. It also forces very much a two-way relationship. I think it's very easy as a mentor to feel that you're the guiding light and you know everything about everything, when quite often we know very little about very little. And so the keynote with that really is when laptops first came out, and I'm showing my age here, I didn't even know how to undo the lid, let alone use digital. Because I mentor people, I was almost forced down the digital route, because younger people use Twitter, use LinkedIn, knew about digital, and so the payback to me has also been huge. So I think the way it's changed mentoring, it allows me to talk to more people, to help more people, but it's also been absolutely critical to my personal growth, because I've learned about things from my mentees that I would never have learned had I not put myself in that space.
How interesting that it's a two-way dynamic.
Very much a two-way street.
Yeah, fantastic. Yeah. How do you use Twitter and LinkedIn, or maybe even Facebook for
I think to go back to your original question, I think mentorship, it really just hasn't changed at all. It's all about connection. It's all about connectivity, and I don't think the digital age changes that in any way, shape or form, but what it does do is it disrupts everything. It puts us in a very different landscape. I think we're all trying to work out how to use it, how to best implement it, how to not waste too much time in the wrong areas. I think for me, it's just been a great expansion and sort of multi-channel way. So, what Twitter does for me and what LinkedIn does for me is just open up my network capacity to really then become more streamlined. So it gives you a more open platform, but then within that, it's overwhelming. You then have to sort of drill down to how you really want to use the medium and how it's best going to benefit what you're trying to get out of it. So I think the defining thing of that is that years ago, I probably used to sit around and think, who can I get advice from? Who's out there that sort of matches me? And maybe you weren't put in a situation where you could meet those people always. Now you can reach out to anyone you want to, that you find inspirational, anybody that you find talks with a relevance to your subject. You can reach out to them. You can reach out to them and ask them questions. They can choose not to respond, but it's not very good for them not to respond. Actually, it's good for them to be seen to be engaging with their following and the people that are interested in them. So I think it's easier than ever to actually reach out and have those connections. So for me, the digital landscape just opens up opportunity.
And I like that idea of it's almost like the Wild West. There's no frontiers there.
Absolutely.
And I would, when I coach my clients, I say, you don't have to be a master of something, but go in the spirit of curiosity. Go out there and be curious about people who are in different industries, and just dive in and learn as you go. And follow different people on Twitter. They may not be in the same profession as you, but you're learning new professions, you're learning different industries, you're learning how other people do it. It also makes you a more interesting person, that you can comment on what other people are doing in their businesses. But equally, comment on blog posts, what people are saying. It may not be the line of work you're in, but it shows a connection, and you're learning about other people's worlds and sharing your information and support, and in your own way supporting them and their views, and then they'll take an interest in you. That's what I find most exciting, is being curious, and you don't have to be a master of it. Just get out there and dip your toe in and see what is going on.
I think that's a really important point. Curiosity leads it, and I think confidence is a big subject matter to then sort of probably explore a little bit. But I think too many people perhaps well, you know, I'm classic, I'm Generation X. So I sit in the middle of baby boomers and Generation Y, you know, and I'm slap bang in the middle, kind of with a foot in each camp, kind of understanding both areas. You've got the, you know, Gen Y coming up here who are just completely social media savvy. That's their life. Bizarrely enough, I hurt myself playing tennis a week ago, and I had a sports massage, and actually the injury was in my neck. And he then said to me, "But what's all this going on down here?" He said, "Do you use your iPhone a lot?" And I was thinking, my office is my iPhone. This is it. This is how I now operate. And I'm constantly, you know, tweeting or emailing or texting or whatever it is I'm doing. And he said, very interestingly, he said his newest wave of new client base is the under 18-year-olds who he's having to deal with the physical restraint and the situations that are occurring from Generation Y, who are now constantly on their mobile devices of some sort. But that's just, I digress. But that blew me away. I thought, oh my gosh, it really is. But as you sit in the middle of sort of these two camps, I think it's really interesting that the one generation doesn't have the confidence to use the medium to their best advantage, and the other is just totally naturally adopting the new digital advances that there are.
Equally, they need to come this way a little bit and still put the phone down.
Absolutely,
and
there needs to be a meeting
and go and network
in the middle.
Human beings.
Absolutely,
instead of
face to face.
Twitter hashtags and things. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Have you got any comment on that, Sylvia?
No, I think it's the same for all of us. You know, the keynote is that two-way communication, but it opens up so many avenues. You know, prior to this, I did actually try a little bit of an experiment and tried tweeting and using LinkedIn to contact people that I didn't think would ever respond. And a number of them have responded, and I have to say, quite surprised, because I chose deliberately people that I thought wouldn't communicate, and they did. A couple were just like, go away, but it was a communication. So it's important to remember people do look at their tweets, they do look at their LinkedIn, and you can reach the people that would never ever accept a phone call from you. And I know if someone sends me an email and says, can we stay in touch, I say yes, and I have good intentions, but it doesn't always happen. If they connect with me on social media, I'm constantly seeing what's happening with them, and I'm happy to retweet and whatever, so it makes that connection that much stronger.
Yes, I'm pretty surprised that Yoko Ono follows me, and I've no idea why. But one day I hope to find out. But so what tips would you have then of, if you're the protege and you're looking to get a fantastic mentor, what tips would you apply to get their attention, to inspire them to want to help you?
I think the first thing is to engage with people, exactly the same as if it were on a face-to-face basis. You know, you can't just tweet someone and say, be my mentor, and they haven't a clue who you are. But people that are on Twitter or on LinkedIn, they're there because they want to improve their brand. So you need to show something that you're actually going to help them improve their brand, and then they've a reason to listen to you. But the biggest thing of the lot is quite simply just ask. You know, we live in fear of great people, and we think, I couldn't possibly ask, but just ask and you'll be surprised how many people actually say yes.
LinkedIn did a very interesting study where they, in America, where they studied however many hundreds of thousands of women, and they basically did, I think they based it on 2,000 women or something, you know, who's got mentors, who hasn't, who's a mentee, who isn't. And actually the defining outcome was, well, I'm not a mentor because I haven't been asked, and I'm not a mentee because I didn't think there was anybody I could ask. And actually therein lies the answer to that is, you know, with curiosity, goes back to your original point, without that curiosity and without sort of putting yourself forward and asking what's the worst answer, no, okay, fair enough, move on. But I think it's important as well to be strategic. I would always say that from a brand perspective. If you think as you as a brand or your company as a brand, whichever way you look at it, at the end of the day, what's your strategic mission? What are you trying to achieve? You know, there's no point engaging with somebody having nothing to say. You know, they're not going to be interested in the dialogue because you haven't got anything interesting to talk about. So what do you want to talk about? what's your subject matter? What are you passionate about? Because in business, there's a very fine line between passion and hard work. It's never hard work if you're passionate about it. And when you set up a business and you're running your own business, you've got to be passionate about it. And if you love it, then engage on those topics, your subject. What do you love? Inspire other people along the way and learn from other people along the way.
Fantastic. Talking about inspiration then, what would make you want to take up a protege? Because I was thinking, who would I like to mentor? And I'm time poor, that's like everybody is. I don't have a lot of excess time. So someone's coming along and saying, can you give me an hour of your time once a week? First of all, why would I? But what about them would make me say yes to them? And I was thinking that I have my own personal criteria. Perhaps people who aren't trust fund kids who'd gone to private school, who already had fantastic connections and lived in Chelsea, I might not think about them. But if there was someone coming up from, who'd had a hard upbringing, who was determined, had some really good ideas, was passionate about what they did, and I could see something inspirational in them that I would feel like I want to invest in that person, I genuinely believe in them. Those would be some of my criteria, while I'd give up my time to help them. So what would inspire you to take up a protege?
Very similar, really. I would want to see that there had been some degree of effort. I'd much rather see a catalogue of failure than someone that's just sitting around thinking, oh, well, I'll wait for someone to show me how. So I would need to see that there's hard work there. I'd need to see that there's some commitment. And also that I could get on with that person. It's very difficult to mentor someone that you don't actually like. So, there has to be that natural chemistry, or someone, that hates you as a mentor. If someone's looking at you and thinking, my God, you should have been dead 20 years ago, there's no point in trying to build a relationship there. So I think the personal attributes are there, whether it's in person or through digital, because personality is still very much there.
I agree, and I would say if you're going into business, that is an important factor, that your likability, your ability to network with all people and to create connections with who you are and your offer is really key here. And if you can do that with your mentor, then you can do it in your business too.
I've just glanced here because I wrote something down that I read. George Eliot said, what do we live for if not to make life less difficult for each other? And actually, I think if you think about those words, for me, mentorship is, I actually don't mentor anyone. I've never been asked, I've been asked once and I had to turn down these two girls that asked me, and I've always thought about it since. Why did I turn that down? And I turned it down because I just don't have the time to be a direct mentor to one single group or body of people. And what I have done through Brand Amplifier, I suppose, is managed to be a kind of prolific, broad mentor to many people through a sort of initiative I set up. So that kind of suits the way I choose to mentor, because I think the more people you can inspire along the way to have confidence to build their dream and to go for their goals or whatever it is. And I think all of us can do that. That's not unique to anybody. It's not unique to being, somebody that sits on a panel, bizarrely, because you've been asked to sit on a panel. It belongs to each one of us in our daily lives. And I think we can all do it. And the whole idea of Brand Amplifier was that once the business women who've been successful mentor the next generation, they then go on through schools and colleges to mentor the young girls that are coming out of college. So for me, this sort of knowledge sharing platform, which is very current, it's very in the ether, just the sharing economy that we now all talk about. For me, knowledge is at the heart of that, because it's something which is free. You can share and you can make and help each other get better along the way, and that's what I believe in. So.
No, I agree. And it's like when you sit at someone at school who always has their hand over their work like this.
Yeah.
And it's like if you're in business and you're doing that too, like I've got my lot, no one else can have this, or I'm going to pull the ladder up after me like the women used to do. I've got to the top, now I'm going to quickly pull the ladder up. So I got here on my own and it was really hard. Yeah. No, it's all about sharing now. And I think there's something about, I call it the karmic business boomerang. You throw it out there, it will come back to you manifold. Yeah. If you share and give things away, it does, somehow, I don't know how, it does come back to you. And that's not why you do it, of course, that it comes back. But it just does. It means that people find you approachable. They're more likely to recommend you. Your brand, for want of a better word, is good. There is a good vibe coming off you because you've bothered to be generous and to give things away that you've learned. And somehow that kind of adds value to everything you do.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I'm not quite sure that my babysitters appreciate it. I've got 2 small boys and a plethora around us where we live of sort of 15-year-olds that are all doing GCSEs. So of course I've got sort of babysitters on hand, and every time they come now, they must have heard that JP gives you good chat on career advice, because suddenly I'm like, so what are you going to do for your O-levels and your A-levels? And okay, and then what have you thought about university? And then when are you going to university? And they go away going, it was really great, thanks. And I'm always like thinking, shouldn't you be paying me?
But I think that's great, because I think a mentor should be challenging. It's not just a friend who's saying, oh, you'll do really well, darling. It's someone who really...
Totally.
I had a lady years ago when I first started out in journalism, and I'm entirely self-taught and got a lucky break in journalism. So everything I wrote, I was with the imposter syndrome. I was terrified of being found out. And then there was this elderly lady called Maureen, she was up there with the Fleet Street great. She was like Linda Lee Potter. She was absolutely the best writer I've ever read. She was very large, and she waddled over to me one day. She went, Carol Ann, come and sit with me. And she literally put her arm around me and said, right, your piece in today's paper, we need to sharpen you up a bit. You need to get the sharper elbows out. We want to get you to be a name. And she made me write quite arch, witty, digging, critical things instead of the kind of plain bits of journalism I was doing before. And everyone started to look at me like, Carol Ann wrote this in the paper today. It was coming from Maureen. Carol Ann, you need to be a bit more ballsy. You've got to be gutsy. You've got to make a name for yourself. And I started to get really frightened of Maureen coming over, because she was so challenging, so utterly challenging. And then when my piece went in the paper, and I thought, oh no, here comes Maureen. She's going to say something about the piece that went in today. And she'll say, very average. Very average. And I was like, and she made me write something about a celebrity that I'd had dinner with once, and she said, no, before it goes to press, let me look at it. And she put in all these barbed comments. The next day everyone's like, did you see what Carol Ann... She created a buzz for me. I ended up being the star columnist on the newspaper in the end, and I interviewed all the celebrities and got my own column. Without Maureen, I would have just been another hack. But she was terrifying. Yeah. She had a bar that was so high, it needed binoculars to see it, for me. And she took me under her wing, and although she was really I really was scared of her, because I actually wanted to impress her in the end. I wanted my mentor to think well of me. She never did. And that was good. She always kept me a little bit harder. Come on, Carol Ann, you should be getting to Fleet Street now. So she pushed and pushed and pushed. So you don't want a mentor who's just a friend.
Yes.
You want someone that you really respect, and like your favourite teacher at school, you want to impress them, and be terrifying as a mentor.
It's so important to be challenged in every aspect, I think. And I think I have this conversation a lot with the Brand Amplifier alumni. It's all good and well surrounding yourself by your friends and family when you're starting out in business. Your friends and family are going to say yes to everything. They love you unconditionally. They're going to say, that's a great idea, that's absolutely fantastic. We've always knew you could do it, dear, and off you go. The reality is that is not good constructive criticism. You're going to fail along the way if you're listening to that. So the reality is to surround yourself, I believe, by successful people. Always look for people that you admire, that you have some form of, like you say, a benchmark, a really high bar, and that's really critical, because and again, don't surround yourself by the negative people. Shed the energy vampires to the side and surround yourself by those successful, challenging people that will push you in lots of areas.
Absolutely. But equally, you were saying your family are supportive, and yes, darling, you can. You could have a family who says, oh, I'm not sure.
Yes,
this is worrying. Are you sure you're going to be investing in the right things? So they're very, very cautious, because they have your well-being at heart. So they may not be the cheerleaders and champions. They might have just always had a job, which is fine. But they don't know what it's like to be an entrepreneur and take risks. So they're challenged by your big dream. So equally, I would say, surround yourself with other entrepreneurs who've done it, who've done well, who will see your vision and cheerlead you to success. And I run a lot of networking groups, and I always look at who's the most successful woman in the room, and I get her to talk, because you can see all the other entrepreneurs thinking, right, that's where I want to be. That they'll pull you up. The real stars will drag you along with their comet's tail, and you'll want to be part of them, And so find your tribe, find other people. Come to places like this where other people are doing similar things, and listen to what they're doing, help and support them, but also find one who's really going places and see how they're doing it too. Let them inspire you and pull you along.
I think that's a very important point, because one of the things that I always find difficult, and I know you do too, is kind of blowing my own trumpet. And you need to blow your own trumpet if you're going to be a successful business. So if you won't do it, your mentor will do it for you because they believe in you, otherwise they wouldn't be helping you. So use them to, tell the world how great you are if you can't do it yourself, until such times that you think, to hell with it, I'm going to tell everyone I'm great. So, pick your mentor carefully for that, as to who can almost market you as well.
And I think going back to the digital link, that is exactly how social media is working in the positive way, I believe, for mentorship, because you suddenly have other people that are able to voice your brand for you. They like what you say, they'll retweet you, they'll link with you, they'll recommend you. Recommendation on LinkedIn is incredibly valuable. And if you get somebody of great standing to say something good about your service, it holds really good stead. So using different areas of digital media to really push your brand out there in a way you couldn't do without looking like you're just shouting from the rooftops, look at me, I'm great, which of course none of us are good at. So it's actually a very, very strong medium. Likewise, if you work for a company and you haven't, you're not your own brand in that sense, but you're working within a big global brand, having that mentor and that person to internally be your PR through a sort of more immediate face-to-face environment is, again, a really strong brand value, brand asset.
Equally, and as you're starting out as young entrepreneurs, you will know things that women of our age don't know, because you're plugged into a different kind of culture. And really good entrepreneurs, like Trevor Beatty, who's the great advertising guru, he has an international advertising company, but he has somebody who's your age going out to look at what footwear people are wearing in nightclubs and the kind of words that they use and how they're doing their hair and what tattoos are in at the moment, because he's not going to go to those places. So don't think the knowledge you have is not relevant to us. We might think you're the guru. We might see your things coming up on Twitter. I might want to follow you because I'm going to learn something from you that could help me with my business. So equally, you can inspire us and in your ways mentor us with your knowledge. And Twitter is great for that.
I think Twitter as a platform offers such immediacy. That's why I like it. I'm very time poor, and I really value its immediacy and its instant relevance, because I can pick up on the subjects I'm interested in a snapshot, and then I can go much, much deeper into that subject if I choose to and if I've got time. But as a snapshot, I can keep very relevant, very current, very on trend, and very able to communicate to my network the things that are of interest to me at that time. And those things change constantly. And you're always looking for new inspirations, new influences, new creative outlets. And that is for me, it's a great tool to finding that.
Definitely, it's superb. It's up to the minute, isn't it?
Yeah, incredible.
But you were saying earlier, JP, about taking risks, the importance of taking risks. What do you think our protégés in this room, what do you think that risks they should be taking now at this stage?
Yeah, I think as part of my mentoring, it is my sort of core thing that I always bang on about till people are probably bored of hearing it. But I think if you're not taking risks in life generally, that's another subject, but in business, then you're standing still. And if you're standing still, you're not fulfilled. And that's that's just one of my values, one of my beliefs. And because I believe that, and because I love change, I love adapting, I suppose it's very easy for me to mentor that without even realising I'm doing it. But I think if I really narrowed down and honed in on what my core values are as a person, that is ultimately so important. It's been important in my career. I think it's down to a lot of the time it's just confidence. And so risk taking is just, I guess, down to confidence. And for me, I never cease to be amazed by the women I meet who've got the best ideas. They've got a great little brand, and they just haven't quite tipped over the balance to taking it to the next stage, whatever that stage might be, whether they want to be the next global brand or whether they're just wanting to keep it as a lifestyle business. It's irrelevant, but it's taking it to the next stage, and where's it moving to? Because unless we're moving forward and taking risks, we're not really living, are we?
No. Do you have anything to add?
Yeah, for me personally, I think risk keeps you sharp. And that's why I like starting everything from afresh, getting it going, getting it to be a decent value and then doing something completely different. I mean, my original business was a training company. Cozy Homes is a restoration and renovation company, and I'm just looking at a restaurant chain idea now as the next thing. So they're absolutely poles apart, you know, but the formula is exactly the same. But by going out there and being new each time, it keeps my sales skills sharp, it keeps my presentation skills sharp, because naively after the first company I thought I'd be able to go back to those clients and go, hey, this is what I'm doing now. But they were very much, no, you don't do that, that's what you are. You know, so we're not going to engage with you in this new thing that you are. So you think, oh, heck, you know, that was a bit of a daft strategy. So you're starting as a new startup every time, and that I find it's an incredible buzz, actually. But it makes me work hard, and that in itself is great.
I was just thinking about Frank Sinatra, who's one of my favourite and inspirational singers, once said, if you think you're coasting, you're actually standing still. And I think you always have to be pushing yourself. And I'm almost always on a daily basis out of my comfort zone.
Yes.
And I'm used to it now. I'm used to living with fear. And I say yes and then think about it. And never say no.
Exactly.
Whatever I get offered, yes, and I can feel, oh, I really don't want to do this, but no, I find a way of doing it, and don't say no. And people sometimes, when I do talks to women in business, what things do we need when we start out in business? And they expect me to say some kind of digital downloadable thing that you plug in and it costs $12.99 off it. No, you need unshakable self-belief, because you are the dynamo, the motor that is going to be driving your business on a daily basis. When you wake up with a migraine, it's raining, it's Tuesday, your bank account's sliding downhill. But unless you have unshakable self-belief in you and what you're doing, you're not going to get through this. And people will see if you're underconfident or if you don't believe in what you're doing, it will send out that kind of vibe that it's a 50-50 about this person. No, you've got to really believe in it and love it and be passionate, and that will drive you through all the ups and downs and all the bad times and all the risks, because you love what you're doing and you believe in yourself. If you don't believe in yourself, see me later. You know, you need a coach, you need to get over that. And the other thing in business, if you have got blocks like that, get over them, invest in yourself, get a hypnotherapist, get a coach, go and see a personal trainer. If you've got issues that are stopping you from being the success you want, invest in getting rid of them.
Right, yeah, I totally agree, and I think that, you know, the whole the digital question, I love the fact, I love the way that this has been set up as a debate around iMentoring. So actually the reality is that is another risk to take. You worry that what you're going to say online, what you're going to say in a forum, that people are going to really judge you. Well, you know, your opinion is your opinion. You own that opinion. And I try and explain that to people. It won't be right and it won't be wrong. To some people, they'll like what you're saying. Other people will hate what you're saying. And that's the beauty of us as a human race. We all have different opinions. But the risk, the only risk, is not getting involved in the conversation. That's what I think is to be the case, because there's a lot going on out there that you can engage with, that you can benefit from, that you can add value to. And the only risk is not getting involved in that dialogue, because there is absolutely no risk in putting something out there that somebody else just doesn't agree with. So what? It's my opinion, it's what I believe in, and it will have value to a lot of other people. So find your tribe, like we said earlier, find the digital group, your digital tribe that have the same values as you, and travel with that tribe and engage with each other, inspire each other and grow with each other.
You can't please everyone all the time,
Absolutely.
so don't try to. And also, being true to yourself will mean that you'll get your brand followers anyway. Don't try to be all things to all people. Have your niche, have your brand, and you'll get your followers. So I'm just thinking, I wonder if it's time to put the debate out to you all, and has anyone got any questions or any comments that you would like to make about some of the things we've discussed so far? Don't be shy. Remember, take a risk, speak up. Anybody?
Hi, I'm Kate from Tom and Amelia.
Hi, Kate.
I think it's maybe a naive question, but it's that initial approaching someone for mentorship. I know we sort of touched on that slightly earlier,
what would you...
How do you say
it?
How do you say, can you invest a little bit of time on me? I know you said about you have a natural rapport with someone or whatever, and it starts slowly. I think the thing I find I've sort of lacked in confidence is that first step.
Sylvia, what would you recommend to someone?
You know, I think it's very hard to say no if someone says, "Will you help me?" So I think that's probably the trick. I hope none of my clients are actually watching this because, you know, when you say to someone, "Will you help me?" you know, you need to be a pretty nasty person just to say no, go away. So just do that. Say, "Will you help me? I want 10 minutes of your time."
I just feel that if people, you know, are busy and successful, 10 minutes is...
You're busy too. You're busy and you're as equally important. And it's just getting into that mindset. And you will have things that you will teach whoever you hook up with. It's a two-way street.
And it's worth asking, isn't it? It's worth taking that risk.
Mine would be quite strategic, because I think I think absolutely what Sylvia says, in a live environment when we have the ability to be face-to-face with people, which you need to put yourself in as much as you possibly can, because, you know, business is about relationships, full stop. So the more we engage with people in a live environment, the more they're going to remember you. So if you're in that one-to-one, be brave enough to ask that question. You know, would you? Could you? But I would never talk about time. Would you give me some time? It's one thing nobody's got anything else to never ask. But could we discuss things? You know, is there any opportunity? Maybe we can meet up at some point for coffee or whatever it is in a live environment. But I'd be more strategic in an online capacity, and I would follow the people that I really admire and like. I'd look at what they're discussing. I would retweet them. Flattery. Everybody loves a bit of flattery. You know, flatter them. Go out there on your own personal mission and pinpoint the people that you would really love and value the experience of, and then start commenting on their blog posts, commenting on their tweets, commenting on something that they've said. "Oh, have you read this? It's very interesting, informative discussion by such." And suddenly they've got this sort of fan in the corner here, sort of saying, "Wow, you know, they really value it." That's lovely. We're all human, aren't we? Everybody's human. If you had somebody do that to you, it would make you feel so great about yourself. And then I would go on a campaign, and I would build it up, and I would slowly start to build up a relationship with that person to the point where you can then start to ask questions of them. Hopefully they'll respond because they value your input so far on their brand, and then that will evolve hopefully into a discussion where maybe you can say, "Can we take this offline, this online offline, and can we actually meet up and discuss some subject further?" But I think you can mix the two worlds and try and use all angles of your connectivity as you possibly can. Be more strategic.
I think that's great. It's a bit of amateur psychology there. Do your research on the person. Read their website and say, "You know, I love that thing you wrote in your blog, and it's really interesting that your background is this." So show an interest in the person. So invest in them. So you're not just saying, "Can you give me your time?"
Yeah.
But I really like your writing, or I really liked your website, and I'm fascinated that you did this in the past. How did you get into that world? And that person thinks, "Well, he genuinely, or he or she is genuinely interested in me." I do a bit of media coaching and help businesses get their products or themselves featured in the press. And there was a businesswoman I knew recently who was incensed by a piece that was written in the business press about how women weren't aiming high enough. They were only aiming for like little cottage industry jobs instead of jobs that are going to, businesses that are going to bring them millions. So she said, "I'm going to write to this journalist." And I said, "Well, let me have a look at the email before you send it." And it was, "Dear Robert, I am incensed with your piece." And I said, "No, what you say is, Robert, I always love your pieces in the Telegraph, and I particularly liked the piece today because I have some thoughts that might offer you an alternative viewpoint." He opened that and he wrote about her the next day. But if she'd gone in all guns firing, so what she did was I know it's flattery, but it showed that she was on the side of what he was doing. She wasn't being combative, and he took an interest in her because she bothered to sort of say, "I like your pieces and your business reviews are great." And so it's just that little bit of strategic engaging the other person beforehand.
Yeah. Research, I mean, Sylvia mentioned it earlier. What would make a good mentee for her? Well, somebody that shows that they've worked hard, that they've invested time, somebody that knows about her and why her value would be important. I know I'm constantly surprised by the amount of interviews I conduct on a weekly basis where people that haven't done enough research on the company that they're coming to interview at. And it's the same thing with a mentorship. You know, if you're just going to pluck things out of the air and do no R&D at all, and actually just expect somebody to just go, oh yes, of course, I'll make you the next big thing, it's not going to happen. So research and
flatter.
Yeah, and a bit of flattery. Yeah.
Okay, fantastic.
Hi, I'm Cleo from Cartoon Kids. Do you believe in having one mentor that can help you, that can genuinely help you in business, or having different mentors that can help you in different aspects? And what if you have a couple mentors that give you conflicting advice?
Ooh, good question. Good question. Really good question. I don't. There's no one rule. I think it's whatever works for you, and I think that. I sort of have one person I consider quite a big mentor for me at the moment, but I think I then work the kind of network of sort of the wealth of knowledge that's out there to sort of almost, I don't know, do you kind of like stalk people quietly and they don't even know I'm doing it? But I am. I'm kind of stalking a lot of people and kind of learning from them. I'm not necessarily engaging with them, but I consider them to be great inspirations for me. So I think it depends what you need at what point of your business. I think it's very important to have different types of mentors as you're growing a business. So, you know, have somebody that's very strong financially. You know, that's always really, really good, so that you can really be resilient and robust with your financial growth of your business. I think it's very good to then have somebody that's very motivating, that can help you take risks. I think it's then very important to have perhaps somebody that's thinking more holistically about your business. So, I think along the way your needs will change as you grow as a company and as a brand. And I think it's important to keep adapting. You know, it's like friendships. You know, I think you're allowed to. Somebody once said to me, it's like shedding a skin like a snake. You know, you don't have to keep friends forever. Sometimes you do grow out of friendships and you evolve and adapt to new ones as we go through different chapters of certainly our business career. And I think you'll find times when business life is a bit barren, where you feel you've got nobody to bounce anything off, and that's why it's important to build up your network gradually, not just of people that have, you know, been successful that you admire, but also the people that are in the same position as you, that are actually going through the same stuff, so you don't feel, you know, alone, and you can bounce ideas off and not feel foolish to ask a silly question. I think it's so important to ask silly questions so that you get good, strong answers.
Yeah, I think you need to ask silly questions.
Really important.
And be prepared to make a fool of yourself a lot of the time, I do.
Yeah.
Equally, I think that's great what you're saying about you grow out of friendships. I think you, 5 years ago, if you were looking at your business, what it needed then is completely different now. You change all the time. I would seek a variety of mentors. Why not? I regularly have 2 coaches. I have a spiritual guru that I talk to, sometimes a financial planner who gives me sound advice which I can pass on to my clients. It's just when I feel that there's a weakness in my personal development, I will either invest or spend time with somebody who knows more about it than I do, who can help me with my personal development.
I think the keynote with that, and for me anyway, because I can be quite manipulative, and I want my mentor to tell me what I want to hear rather than what I like to hear. And I know when I had a couple of mentors, I did try and play both ends against the middle. You know? So I think it's quite important that if you have multiple mentors, as opposed to a network, because your network is wide and varied. But if you've got a couple of mentors, ask yourself the question, am I happy that they speak to each other? And if the answer to that is no, then you're going down the wrong route. So let your mentors speak to each other. Otherwise, you know, you might just be like me and be kidding yourself and trying to get the right answer that you want to hear.
Good question, though. Any other questions? Anybody? Patrick?
I was just about to, it's been very inspiring so far. I've just been jotting down loads and loads of good ideas. If there was just, you've sort of mentioned sort of different mantras about being fearless and things. If there was one piece of advice you would give to someone starting out and getting their own business going, that would be their mantra they'd put on their bedroom wall or in the kitchen to look at, what would it be for each of you?
Oh, what a great question.
Or can I dive in on that one?
Go on.
Do the things you don't like doing.
Okay.
And I would say the opposite, pay someone to do the things you don't like doing. Yes, because what I do best is coaching and helping people inspire and motivate them. I'm not a spreadsheet person, an admin person, and writing out, updating my website. I'm not a technology person. So I hire a VA to pick up all the horrible chores which will drain my energy, will have me at my desk till midnight, and take me away from what I'm good at and what I love doing, what I originally went into business for. My job wasn't to be chasing my invoices and to make difficult phone calls and to be doing admin all night. So I pay my VA to do that. So as soon as you can, outsource the stuff you don't like. But equally, in the meantime, do learn to do some of it yourself if you can.
Yeah, I agree. I have a phrase I use in Brand Amplifier, which one of the girls I overheard saying earlier, which just made me giggle, but it's, are you, in your business, you get to a point where are you cutting hair or are you running a salon? And you get to that point in your business, sometimes very, very quickly, where you can only do so many haircuts, and actually you then need a salon of hairdressers, and you no longer, you've got to stop doing the doing and start doing the planning, and that is a very important point, I think. It wouldn't be the key thing. For me, the key thing I always try and encourage people is avoid the energy vampires. You'll have a million people that tell you can't do it along the way. So if you believe in what you're doing, I've got another one, which is find the turkey, shoot the turkey. So when you're in an environment and it's a meeting, and you pinpoint that one person that will bring that idea down. Who is the person that is going to stop this thing happening? It's going to stop this developing. Find that turkey, shoot the turkey. Either get them out of the room, out of the project, but get rid of them, because that one negative person will bring the whole project idea down.
And that's where it comes back to this unshakable self-belief. You have to believe in that, because that will bring you down. You have to have that as your solid foundation. You believe in it, you're passionate about it, and nothing's going to take that away from you.
Thank you for a great question.
It's a great question. Any other questions?
Lisa Davis, BT, until Friday. Hurrah! After 28 years, so I'm just about to sort of rebirth, if you like, myself, or reinvent myself. And one of the things that it strikes me is that, and I don't know whether it's because I've been immersed in the corporate environment, is I like to think I've probably got some things that I could offer, but how do you actually make yourself available then in this whole connection to maybe help mentor people when you're not the owner, the CEO of your own business or something, but actually, maybe have experiences that you can bring to bear. So how do you create those, or offer those connections as a mentor or a guide, or just to sort of share some of the experiences that are, that one has been through, to maybe put something back into the cycle of life.
Any tips?
I think getting involved with programs like JP's Brand Amplifier and initiatives like that are going on, you actually get the opportunity to do something like that. But equally so, LinkedIn is an ideal way of putting yourself out there, of saying, if I can help, the online groups, whatever they may be, if I can help, and people will ask, just put yourself out there and share, as JP said, your values, and the people that want those values in a mentor, because they have those as a mentee, will just align naturally. So it's just about putting yourself out.
It's time to learn all about, to put into practice what I've been doing out in the digital space, I think. I'm probably with the older generation where it still feels a little bit of a strange one, but actually you're right, it probably is.
Join the club.
I think it's a brilliant. I love it because it's opened up something which I've been thinking about for a long while, and we have discussions about this at JP Creative, but it's the whole, what you have to offer with 28 years of experience is phenomenal. So being in a corporate structure, having grown and evolved your career throughout nearly 3 decades is phenomenal. So that value is something which I think at the moment sits slightly untapped in a lot of people. And if you look at the whole sort of baby boomer generation, and the people beyond that, we're talking about doing a brand amplifier, Gen Y meets baby boomer. We're thinking about doing a BA boomer edition. The reason for that is because Generation Y have got so much to offer the baby boomers, but likewise the baby boomers have got so much to offer Gen Y that they are just complete poles apart. There's so much learning, and at the moment I think there's a lot of this oil and water. oil and water analogy. There's a great article being written on it, which we could send everybody after this. But oil and water, they sit there, they're separate, but they sit together. And lots of these people are working in the same organisations together. But there's not this sort of shake-up where it can all meld and mix a bit more. And there's so much to learn about taking stuff offline, and there's so much to learn about taking stuff online. And we need to connect up more in the middle. And I hope that, maybe through things like BA Boomer and things like that, that we can start to really, it's in the ether, lots of people are talking about it, and I think we can really start to connect up those two worlds and really benefit from the value that each has to offer. Because I think that's a classic example of somebody with phenomenal experience that will just, if you're not careful, all that experience will just disappear into the ether, unattained, and there's so much value that can be passed on. I think it's critical that we find more ways to tap into that valuable asset as much as we possibly can, because I think it's quite hard to, you've got to find the right groups, and it's just going to be a bit of a collision of planets if you meet the right people at the right time. But I think there should be more of a formalised network for actually doing that somehow.
I think you need to come to one of JP's meetings.
Yes.
Equally, as a coach, you could. A lot of those things are transferable to other industries. I'm sure you could charge for that information. You could be a consultant. So think about that. Being a consultant.
After 28 years, it's like I said to a couple of people today. You suddenly feel like your blinkers are taken off, and you realise there's a whole world out there. But equally, I've done amazing things. I would not regret a moment of what I've done, but it is a very particular way of having a career and running a life. And I think things like finding mentors successfully within a corporate is harder, as you say, than from the outside, because there's all sorts of other barriers and risks and about who do you talk to and why you talk to them and their agenda. It's quite a, I think it feels different from even the conversation we've been having here today, and how I can imagine you using it if you are an entrepreneur yourself wanting to get
You could do a sort of small coaching course and then go into corporates offering coaching for those people specifically. Are we nearly done now?
So just to round out the discussion, thank you everyone for your questions and go out. But thank you very much to everyone.
That's great. Thank you.